Hello and welcome to this week's football show. Delighted to be joined in the studio, as you can see, by former England international Paul Parker. Look ahead to all the Premier League games taking place this weekend, but there's only one place to start, Paul. I think it's fair to say a dominant display, two dominant displays in the end from British clubs, certainly in the case of Man City. And then Liverpool, maybe not the best at San Siro on Wednesday night, but they got the job done and both look like through to the quarter-finals safely with a game to spare. Yeah, it seems that way. When we look at City, and we do, I mean, they just dominated. I didn't think, I always believed they was going to go and win in Portugal, but the manner in which they won, and it could have been more, and I don't just mean by the fact that a goal taken away, the fact of it could have been more tells you that City are dominant. Maybe you have to look at the Champions League isn't as strong as it used to be. In that sense, when you look at how they performed their City. We look at Liverpool, and it was just, I always believed they was going to win. They had to kind of work hard for it, but you look at it the way they defended and the fact of the goals they scored, they was always in control of that game. It was a case of when they were going to win the game, to be honest. And then you look at it, even if it was going to stay 0-0, they come back to Anfield and you just knew they was always going to win, or believe that they would win that game at Anfield. They're top of the tree in terms of the market now. City 9-4, Liverpool 4-1. Do you see the winner coming from one of these two? It has to be honest, really. I looked at it, and who's going to knock City out as a side? It's the overseas side? No one. Who's going to knock Liverpool out? There's no one, I think, in the competition. Even look at Bayern Munich, they looked a bit fragile defensively, not very good at all. Attacking-wise, they weren't at their best. I don't know how much better they can get. I just think when you look at it, you haven't a look at the winner maybe being knocked out by a British side, really. That's the way it's going to be. I can't see anyone outside the British Isles winning that trophy. Well, Chelsea United is still in there, but how far are these two ahead of those, or we're just going to have to look at the league table to answer that? We can always look at the league table, but I look at performances. City and Liverpool are in their own mix, followed by Chelsea and followed by the rest. The rest can all beat each other as far as I'm concerned in the Premier League. We're seeing how much they've evolved. Norwich, off the back of Dean Smith going there. We're seeing Newcastle evolve off the fact that they was able to go out and spend and spend and spend. So all of a sudden now we're looking that, when you talk about the top six now, there's a lot of teams jostling to be in that top six. Before we leave the Champions League, one more game I just want to rack your brains about. Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid. Well, only one team wanted to win that game. It did, yeah. And I mean, the missed penalty. Real Madrid, they're nowhere near it at this moment. They are a long, long way off Real Madrid. PSG, doesn't matter how much they spend, at the end of the day, it all gets thrown in a bag and it just gets shaken about. There's not much quality. It's all about individuals trying to win them games of football. The winner's not going to come. The winner of the tournament is not going to come from one of those two. All right, so that's the Champions League. Then looks like it's going to be coming to the British shores. Not quite sure which club, though, the Champions League we're resting at in May. Let's switch tack then and look ahead to the Premier League this weekend. We'll start with the Saturday lunchtime kick-off. And what a game this is. West Ham taking on Newcastle. Now, I think the prices here, 8-11 West Ham, 4-1 Newcastle, are very different to what they would have been maybe even just 6 weeks ago. Newcastle are flying, aren't they? 10 points from the last 12. And interestingly, they've won more away games at West Ham than any other team in the Premier League. So they really have got the bit between the teeth. Well, you have, and we have to say the buy-in's made a bit of a difference. It's made a big, big difference. Also, I mean, what you saw at the weekend, you see the flags out all over the place. No one's seen those flags for years. I don't know where they've been, but there must have been a lot of dust flying around Tyne and Weir. Yeah, I mean, you have to believe. I mean, it's just one of those games where you say, you look at West Ham have to really lift themselves, because as much as they've got results over the last few weeks, some results, their performances have been poor compared to how they were a few weeks back. And when you look at it, you might look at injuries they've had, and defensively has cost them quite a bit. But Newcastle are going to make it very, very difficult. And I can remember some of their home games I've been to of late, West Ham, and the Southampton, the Leeds game, the Brighton game. They just haven't really been at it in those games. So they're going to have to be at, the game could turn into a little bit of a cup final, because Newcastle fans are going to come and make a noise now. Suddenly Newcastle are starting to believe that, they just not, okay, they're going to survive this season. I'm sure by next season they'll be talking about winning the Premier League. I'm sure they will. Before we leave this game, just a quick word on Jarrod Bowen. I mean, he's having a great season, 5 form, scored 8 in his last 12 in all competitions, 92 to get the opener and 5-4 to score any time. And people have been asking about an England call-up for him. Well, it's just a shame, really. There's been this big gap of international, because I believe
he should have been or would have been called up. There's no wide players playing as well as him. If Gareth Southgate is going to actually practice what he preaches in saying about form, then he has to be there. He's better than any wide man at this moment in time. He's causing problems. He's leading West Ham. West Ham are being led by him and Declan Rice. So there should be at least 2 West Ham players in that England squad.
Right, let's rattle through the 3 o'clock kickoffs and then for you. We're going to start at the Emirates where Arsenal take on Brentford. I mean, you cast your mind back to that first Friday night of the season. Brentford were fantastic, a 2-0 win. Lots changed since then, though, hasn't it? And they kind of flipped now. Is this an easy home win for Arsenal? Brentford no win since the 2nd of January?
I don't think Arsenal have easy games, do they, at home? It doesn't work that way. There's only 2 sides who have kind of easiest home games, and we talked about them a little bit earlier, City and Liverpool. Everyone else is having to work hard. But they can't. If Arsenal just step off a little bit, Brentford will take a liberty with them without a shadow of a doubt. I'd be surprised if Eriksen doesn't start.
Yeah, he had 60 minutes in the week, didn't he?
Yeah, so I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start. I mean, and then that could lift the players and give them that little bit of belief as well. But now getting Eriksen there, that might kind of release Ivan Toney a little bit. That's if he's available as such. I don't know. I haven't really seen what's going on now. Mbuena, lots of opportunities, just doesn't score enough. But a lot of teams could say that about the way their season's been so far. But I wouldn't write this one as one-way traffic and easy for Arsenal. Brentford, somewhere they've got a fight about them. They're not in the Premier League. And just on the fact of there was a great team to watch, they've definitely got a fight about them. They don't give an easy, and this is a big game. They love a challenge. So definitely Arsenal are going to have to work hard. People
talk about Brentford maybe being sucked into a relegation battle. Looks like Newcastle are going to run clear from that. But is it the case that the bottom 3 are the bottom 3? Because we're going to talk about Watford now. Are we in last chance saloon for Watford? I know Roy Hodgson's come in. I think they've scored yet under him, haven't they? But Villa look good under Stevie G, but just lately 1 win in the last 5. Shaky bit of form.
Yeah, it looked to him at one point, and you thought to yourself, yeah, he's made a difference here. But the one thing, they're just growing into themselves now. They've put to bed the Jack Grealish one. They've got more players who have come out themselves. They're a team now. When before they was made into this one-dimensional team. Now they've got a little bit more about them. Be interesting what Steven Gerrard can do in the summer, who he can bring in. I think Coutinho's been a fantastic signing. I think they've got to work defensively. Central defence is very poor, very inconsistent. So I think that's one thing he'll definitely work on. I think he likes the midfield players he's got. He might look at maybe a front man, but there's definitely something good about Villa. They can compete, but they haven't got the staying power at this moment in time.
Saying that, would Tyrone Mings be in your England squad?
No.
No.
No, not at all.
Give us a prediction for this one. Do they have enough to get over the line against Watford, though?
Oh, Villa have, without a shadow of a doubt. They'll make it difficult. Roy will make things difficult. But Roy's team, people say they haven't scored under Roy. Even when Crystal Palace were doing okay, they always struggled to score Palace. Palace, for a long, had this kind of record of not scoring more than 1 goal at home, I remember under Roy. If you go behind against Palace, it was always tough. If you score that goal early against Watford, then you know at the end of the day, Watford are not going to come back. It's going to be very difficult. They struggled before. Roy will definitely shore them up. They're not going to be easy to beat as they have been over this season. They're going to be difficult, but they're not going to come through this one.
Right, let's head to the south coast then and talk about Brighton's draw with Burnley, shall we? Because that's been the case in 4 of the last 5 times I've met at the Amex Arena. Brighton unlucky in midweek. The red card changed things, didn't it? And Burnley, they're going to be concerned about their Premier League survival, aren't they?
Yeah, for the time it's looking that way at the moment. You have to say that they're not the Burnleys we know, but their performance against Manchester United, suggested there is something about them. Defensively, they compete well, but they take a bastion because they're constantly, up against it all the time. The back four, the 2 centre halves are their great strengths, without a shadow of a doubt. But you think yourself, are they going to be able to go and score more than 1 goal per game? They will compete as they did against Liverpool and Manchester United. So there's enough games left there for them to go and get stuff, but they need to win. And if they're going to win and go and try and win at Brighton, that's tough for them to go and win at Brighton. You do know that Brighton are going to have a lot of the ball, and as we saw midweek, the problem they've got is they don't kill teams off, they don't score enough. So this game's open, by the way, and what you just mentioned there, I think I would go that way as well.
The
draw, yeah.
Just quick, what Burnley do have in their favour is Wout Weghorst coming. He's got the physical presence of a Premier League striker, and you could see him and Cornet hitting it off.
Yeah, you can. I saw it when Cornet in the Man United game. he didn't really look, you think himself, he scored a few great goals, but I didn't see anything where he beat someone. Sometimes his touch let him down, his passing, his decisions. I don't know, maybe I just caught him at a bad time in a big game that got to him. He'd only just come back from the African nation, so he might have been feeling that a little bit. But I think the big striker, the big Dutchman, he's a really good player. I mean, he ripped Harry Maguire to shreds, didn't he? Really? Yeah. He's very, very clever in what he tries and what he wants to do, and he's a very unselfish centre forward as well. So, I've got a lot of time for him, and be honest, I've got a lot of time for Burnley. They work hard to be somewhere where a lot of people don't want them to be.
Interesting, we mentioned the travel corner coming back from the AFCON, because that's something you can level at Chelsea now, coming back from the World Club Cup. Midweek Champions League game against Lille. They go to Crystal Palace this weekend. Potential banana skin?
Well, they went there and won quite easy, if I remember rightly, last time. I think I was there. I was at that game as well, where they totally dominated 3-0, and they scored a goal. I remember them going 3-0 up very, very early in the game. The game was dead. But can they go and do that again? I don't think they're as clinical this season as what they were in Tuchel's first season. I don't think it's the same. So I'm going to say they should go there and they should win because of the squad they've got. But at the moment, they've lost that early season. They was quite blasé, quite arrogant in the way they played because they were playing so well. And I just think there's been a little bit. I think the Lukaku situation has caused a problem there with Chelsea. They've lost their way over that time.
Right, let's move on then. Obviously, Chelsea are trying to catch Liverpool in second place at present, and Liverpool are at home to Norwich. Surely this is 3 points for Jurgen Klopp's men. Were we talking about by how many?
Well, listen, it's going to be a harder 3 points than what it was before with a change of manager. Dean Smith has done great. He's put them now in contention and of staying in the Premier League just by what they've gone and done. I don't think he's expecting a lot from it. All he'll be doing is maybe judging a few players and looking at them for the rest of the season and making an opinion about them, or whether or not they should be in his team, because he's looking for the right players with the right attitude to go to Anfield and want to try and do something.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, are they doomed? I mean, what was it, 17 point? Dean Smith came in, got a bit of a reaction, they got a couple of wins, but now with Newcastle pulling clear, they need to go on and win games, and they're not surely going to start this weekend, are they?
Well, I'm going to give them a little bit more of a chance than what I did before. Under the previous manager, and when Dean Smith first arrived. Then he's had that little bit of a spurt, and when they nicked a few points, the Newcastle issue obviously comes into it. But I think they won't go down without a fight. Before they'd given up, they were just going to take the money and run initially. But now it seems like Dean Smith doesn't want to do it. Dean Smith wants to manage in the Premier League still.
Yeah, it's 4-5 Norwich plus 3 on the handicap, so that means basically to keep within 3 goals of Liverpool. That shows the task on hand at Anfield. The other side from Merseyside, though, Everton, they travel to the South Coast, take on Southampton at St Mary's. Shoots of recovery for Everton in that big 3-0 win under Frank Lampard. I mean, they started well in the Cup, then they got beaten. Now, is it going to be a topsy-turvy run to the end of the season, or will he get them settled eventually? I
think it's going to be a little bit topsy-turvy because of the squad he's got. That squad isn't exactly perfect now, and they're going to have a consistent run in because it didn't work under Ancelotti. They brought badly, and you can look at a bit of paper and you can say he's good, but you don't know about them within their headspace, and I think that's the problem that's caught Everton out with certain individuals. Frank's had his bit and he's seen hot and cold. We've seen Benitez have his problems.
Say that, then one person he has got to get on side, because he's the hothead, isn't he? But he's also the crazy player, Richarlison. I mean, he scored 5 and 6 against Southampton. Is he the big player for Frank Lampard to get playing?
If you can get him right, but Benitez couldn't, Ancelotti couldn't get him. He wants to spend a lot of his time falling over and moaning for fouls. You just want players just to want to play. You want him to score goals and not just be content to be touched and fall over. Try and show the application to want to drive with the ball towards goal. And yes, he can score goals, but you want him to be more consistent in his play. But they're going to Southampton. They're in good form, by the way. I mean, their performance at Spurs, their performance at Manchester United was really good. So now they're at home. You think to yourself, Everton have got a game on. Frank's got a game on. And we have to remember, though, it's Everton. It's not Frank Lampard's Everton.
Give us a prediction, then. This is a tight one.
I'm going to go Southampton to win 1-2.
So there are 2-1 to Saints then,
Sorry,
right?
yeah. They're at home, isn't they? Yeah. Where was I going now?
No idea. I'll tell you where we're going, though. We're off to the Etihad. now because look, Fred's already paid out on Man City as champions. This should have been one of their tougher games on paper, but Spurs, I mean, what's going on there? Defeat against Wolves, defeat to Southampton. Antonio Conte has gone on record as saying his side is weaker now than it was in January when the transfer window was open. This isn't going to end well, is it?
It doesn't seem that way. Ancelotti, sorry, I got there. Conte's kind of said that, and you think, oh, that sounds a little bit, just maybe going back to a little bit to Chelsea. But I think obviously he's questioning his own players, how some of them have maybe reacted to certain things. Again, we look at maybe a dressing room problem, which is part and parcel of football today with players. So much comes out nowadays. Sometimes let out by the weaker elements to try and protect themselves. So I think if he's saying that, Conte, where I'm a big fan of his, by the way, if you give him the right tools, he will give you a team that's going to compete to win that whatever league it is. And if he's coming out and saying that, and I think the proof is in the cooking, there is a big problem at Spurs at this moment in time. And if Spurs are weaker than what they were in January, then he's got a problematic end of season with that team.
When we cast our minds back, I think they go into that Chelsea game, if they'd won all their games in hand, they'd have gone above Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea won that. They'd only conceded 6 goals under Conte going into that, and now they've lost the last 3, conceding 7. Contrast that with what Manchester City have been doing, 43 points from the last 45. Surely the points remain at the Etihad.
Well, they do in normal circumstances. We'd always talk about City winning this game, but then you look at it, sometimes Spurs have surprised them, haven't they, at White Hart Lane, but they've gone and done that. But when you talk about this one at the Etihad, and you have to come out and say there isn't a hope for Spurs. They haven't got that mental strength about them. They haven't got it. They haven't got the characters, in my opinion, to go there and really make you believe that they can go and win the game. They haven't got it. Conte knows that himself. He hasn't got the players to compete.
Just a bit of admin about this as well. So Son Heung-min, Spurs' forward, has scored 6 his last 8 against Man City. But as for Kevin De Bruyne, he's been involved in 7 of the last 8 City's goals. 5 of them he has scored, and his next goal will be the 50th in the Premier League for City. So that's Saturday's wrapped up. Got a couple of games on Sunday to look forward to as well. And well, this used to be a huge rival. I suppose it still is in terms of the fans, isn't it? But Leeds and Manchester United, it kind of feels like a bit of a mid-table derby at present. I mean, it was the first game of the season. United romped away with that, and people were starting to think this could be, I think they were second favourites after that game because they ran away with it. But tables have turned, haven't they?
They have done. I mean, they have turned, but you can't just write this game off. I mean, even if United have been anywhere near being a proper United team, it's always going to be difficult. Leeds, their whole thing about being back in the Premier League was about playing against Manchester United. That's what they wanted more than anything, the fans. It's part of their culture is to play United, make it as difficult as possible and try and beat them. So United are going to have to be a lot better than what they have been. If they suddenly, just think they can go there and just be like they are, because Leeds will take advantage of that. The fans will demand it from those players. Those players know they can make themselves into like royalty a little bit if they were to go and get something from this game.
Well, they are due. Just won one of their last 16 Premier League games against Manchester United. That was back in 2002. And although all the criticism, not so much criticism, Rangnick's getting the plays that United are getting, they still have got a good away record, haven't they? I mean, they had an excellent under Solskjaer, and it seems to be that the home form is the worry.
Yeah, the home form hasn't been good. Obviously, that all started during the lockdown period. But as much as you talk about their away record, you look at it and it's still jittery. There's no great belief in it. It's just about getting over the line. I hate stats, because stats do paper over the cracks. The cracks is that United have got the Grand Canyon rather than just cracks. So this game is still tough to call because of what Leeds have to put into it. If Leeds do not put anything into this game and they were to get dominated and well beaten by Manchester United, that could cause problem at Leeds, because the fans might question their players because how big that game is to them. But I think Leeds will certainly fight Manchester United. This game for me could be a draw, for some unknown reason. I just don't see United scoring a lot of goals. I
mean, if Solskjaer was still at helm, you could have been any score. But Rangnick likes to try and control games, doesn't he? But I mean, I watched the Leeds.
He hasn't started then, has he?
Well, I watched Leeds against Aston Villa, and their defence, they didn't have one. It was just all about attack. I mean, it was a cracking game for the neutral, the 3-3 against Villa. But they're great going forward. I just think United could be able to easily pick them off at the back.
They could do, if you remember the game when they United scored quick goals, didn't they, at Old Trafford, and it kind of killed it. Even though when you look at the game in the end, you think to yourself, was it really by that? Did it look that, was it that big, the gulf, because of the amount of goals? And it wasn't that big, but it's about when United scored the goals. So, yeah, they can't defend, but the way they play the game, they virtually empty a half of the pitch to get the ball and try and play out. And they when they play, they go man to man as well. So if you can break through, get the ball and run with the ball past your man, you will get a free run to a certain distance where somebody's going to have to come out. And by then, with good sides, it's too late. That decision's been made. That's why City went and done what they done with them, didn't they? At the Etihad. That's why they dominated them. Could have been 10, because they got the players with the quality, with the ball at their feet, to make the right decisions.
And you see, so one way of playing, doesn't it? Yeah, Bielsa. So it's a draw. Leeds United are going to share the spoils in that one. Before we move on, I just want to ask you about Harry Maguire. Comments that Ralph Rangnick has made in his press conference about he needs to learn the way they want to play. Would you be worried about his captaincy? Would you be worried about his position on the team sheet?
I'll take the latter first. Yeah, I would be. You would worry about his position in the team. You've got Phil Jones, who done really well in his first game. Got a bit emotional after, you saw when everything that went, and now he's done that. He's broken through that. Now he needs himself to find out a bit more about himself as a footballer. He needs that next game, and he never got it. I think Lindelof needed that opportunity to play with Varane. Somehow Varane was ill the other day, but I'd like to see Lindelof come back in, because I think people are looking at him now, maybe have judged him wrongly. I'm first saying that. I may have judged him wrongly because about maybe the person he's playing with. But go back to your earlier point, I personally don't think Harry Maguire should be captain of Manchester United. I think he's got too much going on in his own game to worry about, rather than trying to lead a team which he only just joined, and within a few seconds he gets the captaincy. I think that might be more off of the fact of his price tag, rather than his the side about him as a person, as a leader of men. And I think at the moment, the one who should be captain is the one they all respect, is David De Gea. Because to be a captain, you have to respect a player. And David De Gea has to be the most respected player in that Manchester United team, because he's the one who's actually kept him in that position to be fourth in the Premier League at this moment in time.
Right, David De Gea, interesting shout there. Right, as a former Manchester United defender, give me your preferred back four at this time.
I really don't want to say that, really, because when you use that word before, it means that maybe I'm suggesting that they're okay.
None of them. None of them. Would Maguire be in your first job? I mean, you've got Lindelof, Jones, Varane at the minute on form.
No, you wouldn't, because he's not in form. He's out of form. The problem is what's been happening with Manchester United. There's been too many players who have played for too long who have been out of form. You can go with it for a while because he's earned the right. Some players have earned the right because of what they've done. But after a while, I think you just need to make a change just to refresh them, or just to make them think that they can't just have the easy route and play week in, week out. Because you've got players sitting on the line that you would lose them. You'd lose them maybe a lot quicker than you're losing that player on the pitch who's playing horrendous.
Right, let's move on to the final game of the week. It's a Midlands derby. Wolves taking on Leicester. Every time that Wolves win a game, you think this is it now. They're going to kick on. And they just seem to throw in a bad one. They've got a horrendous home record, really. I think it's the lowest ratio in the league where their points have come from. Only won one of the last 5 at home. But they're playing Leicester this weekend, and I have no idea. Is Brendan Rodgers, is he on the way out? The things he's been saying in his press conferences about how this team, has it reached the end of its lifespan?
Well, if he's saying that,
yeah. Well,
then he built the team. So virtually, it's like he starts to build a house and he starts questioning the house as a builder. Then obviously that's his integrity gone then, isn't it? If that house was to fall down. So if he's questioning what he's built, then that doesn't send the right message to the players at the moment. He personally, he shouldn't be saying something like that. And the players will be looking at him going, well, hold on a minute, you brought me, you told me to do that. He makes too many changes. Keeps making changes. We all know that he's had problems defensively to a point. He brings in Vestergaard from Southampton and then doesn't play him. And then he brings him on at the end. The last game against West Ham, he misses a header. Dawson goes and scores. Why did he have to bring another centre half on? Why do people who are 2-1 up or 1-1 just happy to take the point, why do they bring an extra defender in? Because that causes problems. people lose what they were doing. People, all well and good talking about striker. He needs it. Just leave him on there to get his eye and to do this and play. Defenders, once you've been in a situation, you get to it. You sorted out your territories. You know your job. You bring in an extra man, organisation. You don't know where he is. What's going. Causes problems. And straight away, as soon as he comes on, they get a dead ball. Forget about the man standing there with his little clipboard or, sorry, in today's world, his iPad. That doesn't mean anything straight away as such. Do that, stand there, because there's so many different things that have happened which maybe them on the touchline don't see, because players have dealt with a situation themselves. So he runs on there with a specific job. All of a sudden he doesn't, that isn't there, that specific job, because of the players have sorted something out and they've looked after themselves, they've dealt with it. They've had trouble all season, Leicester, conceding goals. From set pieces. Well, yeah. So straight away, they'd make a change right on top of almost on top of a set piece. And maybe, and I think there's a good chance, he doesn't make that change, they walk away with a 2-1 win. That's hindsight, but I just wonder, when teams keep wanting to put an extra man in there, I think that's going to make all the difference. And it doesn't. It absolutely kills it. Put an extra striker on and take away one of their maybe attacking players. Ask that question, because if you don't, we're going to go and score another goal to kill the game off.
Who wins this weekend?
Sorry?
Who wins this one this weekend?
I'm going to go with Wolves.
Wolves?
Yeah.
Favourites. There we are then. Turn their home form around with victory against Leicester. So that's a look at this weekend's Premier League action. It sounds like wins for Man City and Liverpool and struggles for Burnley, Norwich and Watford. So normal service is going to be resumed.